Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about 6 patterns of behavior that tend to scare people away in the dating stage of relationships. So I will do a series on this for all the different attachment styles as well, things that are more specific to each individual attachment style uniquely. But I really wanted to touch on 6 major things here that often take place when people are starting to get to know each other and they're in the dating stage that can really make somebody on the receiving end of these behaviors sort of want to run away, want to shut down. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why these major behaviors tend to apply to basically all people of all different attachment styles as well, and some of the impact that these things actually have. Now, if you want to do a much deeper dive into this stuff, we have really amazing advanced attachment style courses, and they literally are the 6 stages of relationships. So for example, we talk about in each of the 6 stages. So for those of you who aren't familiar, we have a dating stage, then we have a honeymoon stage of relationships, then we have the power struggle phase that comes after that, followed by the stability phase, then commitment and bliss stage of relationships. And a relationship naturally evolves in that way. And sometimes when we don't know this, we can really get stuck on one stage, or for example, think things like the honeymoon stage is supposed to last forever and try to stay there when we actually have really important lessons and rites of passage to move through in the power struggle stage that deepens our bond, that deepens our understanding of one another, that helps us to then progress all the way to the bliss phase, which is sort of like the honeymoon stage, except with a lot more comfort, understanding of one another, a lot more harmony. So anyways, I won't go into all that stuff, but we'll talk about the 6 things here. And this is specifically in the dating stage. If you want to do a deeper dive, you can check out our courses for free for 7 days. And they all talk about what each attachment style needs in each of the stages, and what's important and what scares them away and what puts them off, and how to actually reprogram your own patterns if you see these things showing up for you in your life. So with all of that being said, the very first thing that I find can really put people off is being boundaryless or people pleasing. And this may sound funny, right? Because we're like, oh, but don't we all want to just like get along? And isn't it nice that somebody could be so agreeable in the early stage? And I'm going to tell you a story. I remember working with a client once, and she was a really wonderful person, worked really hard on herself. And she had shared with me that she had met somebody, and she was really being intentional about who she was meeting and taking her time. She had met somebody online, and she said, you know what, I'm going to meet them in person. And I'm looking forward to it. Like, this person seems like they've got a lot of great things going for them that I'm looking for. And she went on that first date. And I remember she came back to me the following week, and she said to me, she's like, I'll never go on a date with that person again. And I was like, why? I thought everything was going to go so well. And she was like, he was just so agreeable. Like, every single thing that I said, he was like, oh my gosh, me too. And she was like, at the beginning, it was like, oh, we're kind of vibing. And then partway through the date, it was like, he doesn't have his own personality. There's nothing unique about him. He's just saying yes and getting excited about whatever I'm getting excited about. And there's no human being there. It's just somebody who's like mirroring me the entire time. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel like this person has a sense of independence. It doesn't feel like this person like has a stable sense of self, and it's unattractive. And quite honestly, and unfortunately, this isn't an unattractive thing for the vast majority of people. I've heard versions of this story time and time and time again. And so while it can be nice to have harmony when people are agreeable, if there's agreeability or people pleasing without that person actually taking themselves into consideration, without that person having their own unique identity, I find that this very consistently puts people off. And if somebody can't say no to something or have their own opinion and stand strong behind what their opinion is, it can be very off-putting in relationships as a whole. And there are actually biological reasons for this at a deeper level. So this is a really important thing to be aware of. Number 2, treating them like they're perfect. Okay, so putting somebody really strongly on a pedestal too early on has that same off-putting sort of energy for somebody on the receiving end. It can feel nice originally that that person feels like wanted or looked up to or valued or whatever it might be. But over time, the more we put somebody on a pedestal and the more we do this pervasively, and not like we admire somebody, we compliment them, we give them words of affirmation, but we also see ourselves and treat ourselves like we're equal and we have something to offer the relationship. If we're just always putting somebody on a pedestal, what that insinuates, as soon as you're on a pedestal, I'm below that person. And I think equality and harmony is really important in relationships where we treat our needs equally, we treat our emotions equally, our opinions, because we have such different sets of programming as people that it's okay to have differences, right? And to treat both differences mindfully and to take differences in our beliefs or opinions or ideas into consideration and talk about both, that's how we attach in a healthy way. When we put somebody way above ourselves or vice versa, suddenly there's this like inequality in the relationship and we don't have an equal partner. And that is something that actually creates long-term lasting relationships, is this sense of like, oh, we're both in this together. We are partnered as two equals going through life together. We may have different things that we have strengths and weaknesses around. Somebody might be really health focused and somebody might be really work focused, and they can sort of help each other out in those areas. You know, there can be all these differences there, but it's that both people have value to offer, can support each other, and that there's this sense of like we are partnered. And that's actually one of the biggest things that makes for long lasting relationships. And so when we don't have that and we put somebody on a pedestal and treat them like they're perfect, early on somebody starts feeling like, oh, you don't feel like I'm your equal. We're not going to be partnered together going through life or getting to know each other. It's going to be like, oh, I'm supporting this person or doing things for this person, or I'm sort of bringing this person along with me. And that tends to be something that can really put people off in the dating stage. Number 3, emasculating or degrading behavior. This can be offside comments, passive aggressive comments early on. This can be like actually emasculating behaviors where we take somebody's power away or we put them down. And you can see here, like we want this balance. You see, we can put people up too much and we can disconnect from that. And here's another thing: when we put somebody up too much as well, just to go back to that past point, we also can violate the emotional connection. If somebody has a really high need for emotional connection, they usually want to feel like somebody's like on the same page as them. And when we feel like somebody's on a different page, either positive or negative, that also is a violation of emotional connection to a certain degree. We're not bonding from the same place. And a lot of people at a subconscious level that do have a need for emotional connection will feel that. Anyway, so going to this like emasculating or degrading behavior, being rude, putting people down, treating people disrespectfully. I mean, these are obvious things. And then the emasculation or emasculating behaviors can be things like, insinuating somebody can't do something, they're not capable on their own. You don't need them, anything that's really putting somebody in that position, can be really hurtful. And this can be for men, and this can be for all people in general. And so just important things to keep in mind. Like if that is you doing some of those things, why? Usually it's a subconscious strategy for protection and not wanting to let somebody get too close or things like that. And those things should be explored. Our next one is a sense of entitlement. Again, you can see this in the dating stage. It's like violating the bond, getting to know somebody. It's like, oh, I should just be able to take everything. I'm owed everything. I have a sense of entitlement. There's a lack of like equality and human connection that takes place. And even if people have a higher need for significance than connection or whatever it might be, these things still have an impact. They still are off-putting from a connection perspective, which at the end of the day is always going to be one of the root reasons that people do get into relationships. So it's important to keep in mind. And then we also have making accusations. So early on, if there's a lot of distrust, suspicion, making accusations, that tends to be a common red flag I hear from all different attachment styles, all different people. And also our last one here is volatility. So a lot of like fighting early on tends to be a huge deal breaker for a lot of people in relationships, even if they don't think going into it that is going to be a deal breaker. And that's not something they would even say is a red flag. It will be something, especially in the dating stage, that has a massive impact, because people will feel like, whoa, I don't know if I can go on arguing so often. And they'll start to, in the early stages of getting to know somebody, where we make those associations to people, those emotional associations, they'll start to feel like there are more negative emotional associations than positive, and that can have a huge impact as well. So hopefully this all makes sense. If you want to do a deeper dive, you can check out for free for 7 days all of our advanced attachment style courses by clicking the link in the description box below. When you go in, type in advanced anxious or advanced fearful or advanced dismissive on your dashboard, and this will help you see like what each of those attachment styles wants in that stage of the relationship, what they're looking for, what the pain points are, what pushes them away, what their rites of passage are to move into the next stage of a relationship. And it gives you sort of like a whole framework to check everything out. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.